suppose, like all good things, it must come to an end. What's up, guys? That guy with a pencil from Fat Edmund Soup. Have it on me and keep it on me at all times. Another fun fact, here we are to do a breakdown and review for chapter 25 of Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo. And I will say, it came so quick and it left us as fast, bro, man. It left us as fast, brother, man. And I liked it. I liked it. But of course, I'm talking about Modulo as a whole. Let's actually hop into chapter 25 itself, because we got a lot to talk about. So, opening up on this first page, before we actually get to the color cover page and the actual title of the chapter, we see Yuji showing up to Nobara's house. House? Questionable? Maybe apartment? Going, yo, and holding up that filthy, disgusting, nasty creature. Which does have the hilarious connotation that Yuji did just break into the Gojo clan storage, take Panda, and be like, who gonna stop me? And then none of them stopped him. Because, how would genuinely, how would they stop that man? Of course. He was perfectly fine walking out of that thing. I'll admit, I still don't like Panda. It's just like a lot of people, and to be fair, I have definitely over dramatized it somewhat. It isn't really, I just really don't like him. Some people truly believe, and I've even had people ask me, like, is your hatred of Panda a bit? Is that? No, I just don't like the character. I really think he is a net negative of the narrative. And even this moment for him immediately is like, gosh darn it, man. Your very presence undermines this very pivotal reunion for Yuji's character arc. But regardless, Yuji hits the O, holding up Panda, squeezing his dome piece. And naturally, Nobara, who is looking relatively good. Like, who knows? I'm not sure if her hair has dyed or anything, but still, she looked fantastic for how old she should be, right? Because she should be in her 80s, right? Because she was 15 by the time of, I think it was 15? Yeah, I think she was 15 at the time of JJK. 68 years have passed since the Culling Games incident. So, and then more time passed. So you have what, like a 6-month time skip? So Nobara may be like a smooth, solid 68 plus 15 is 83, possibly 84. So for 84, Nobara is looking immaculate. And we see that obviously Nobara, upon seeing Yuji, I'm not sure, teleport into the home? It doesn't look like that door is unlocked. She goes, yo, I can't, gosh darn, all the old women voices sound the same. But she hits the, you really think yo is gonna cut it after you just disappeared? And Yuji naturally still squeezing Panda's head, which is the best thing in the chapter, right? He should have just popped the dome. He should have cleaved Panda out of existence, honestly. But Yuji goes, sorry. And I do appreciate that, right? Yuji is still awkward. And especially considering the choice he made to abandon everything, as far as we know, wasn't a choice made all that long ago, but long enough that Nobara would be like, dude, why? Because notably, we don't know when Hana passed away, but that was the last time she saw him, essentially. I will admit, especially once it was confirmed he was still talking with Todo, or Todo knew how to find him. Like, it does feel really strange. He said no more funerals, but it feels like he really did just flat out abandon Nobara, but Todo's in contact with him. I'm not sure if that's like a Todo just knowing where Yuji is at all times thing, or if that's actually mutual. Like, it seems like they were actually just still communicating. I don't know. That whole Todo thing is weird. He doesn't appear. He's just name dropped over and over and over. I would have loved to see old man Todo, because he should be like, what? I think it was 18 at the start of Shibuya. So he should be like 86. But he still not only has the Viper Slap hand, but he also has more information about the Samurians than anyone. I genuinely, Todo, man. Todo. But regardless, Yuji does apologize. And we immediately cut to the color cover page. The final color cover page for Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo. Chapter 25, A Bright Future. And this is a beautiful color cover page. I will readily admit that. I've been glazing Yuji Iwasaka Sensei to the moon and back. You know, I've been doing nothing but going insane. I've been doing tricks on it. I ain't even gonna lie to you. I've been doing straight tricks on it. If you were to pull a compilation of all the Yuji Iwasaka glaze, I think it'd be longer than any video on the channel because of how much I've been doing tricks on it. And it will not change here. And I will admit, I do like that literally every single character, or any single character of any decent relevance, got to show up here. And by decent relevance, I mean like 1 or 2 appearances. Like obviously not all the Sumerians got to show up, but look at all the characters featured here. We got Maki, we got the curse user from chapter 1 who was teleporting and getting rid of children. It was weird. Takeda with his Shikigami mother thing. He is in jail presumably. We have a certain someone, you know, I wonder who she could be looking at. Sorry, we'll get to that in a bit. Then we have Usami, who, you know, is part of the past, looking back towards it. Maki, obviously, here. It is a very interesting detail. And I guess it's because they're gone. But it's interesting that we never get a single drawing of Maki or Yuta with their eyes showing. I think that it is meant to be like artistic symbolism, right? The idea of they are just memories now. And of course, like all memories, well, I'm hearing mixed things about this all the time. Is photographic memory really a thing? Is it? Because I've heard like multiple versions of it. But like essentially, most people with regular memories, like your boy, and not even that. Like, I do wonder this, because I know there are people like this. For people who cannot project images in their own head, and especially people who don't have an inner monologue, what is your memory like? I do genuinely wonder. Like, notably, when I think of memory, especially anything that's not like just hard-coded data, like 2 + 2 is 4, 4 + 4 is 8. Like, I think of the images, I think of the time, I think of the sensations I felt. Like, I can almost like hard link and put myself back in there. Same thing for anything when I'm thinking of a friend. But I mentioned this before. My best friend of basically my life at this point, he doesn't have that. He doesn't have, I'm not sure if he even has an inner monologue, but I know specifically he can't picture images. He does not know what I look like. Obviously, he'll recognize me, you know, like, and he recognizes everyone, right? But it's not just the me thing. He doesn't, like, he cannot picture anything in his head. But that is common. That's not that, notably, you could argue me and others are the insane ones, being able to manifest images in our head, and even further, hear voices, because I have an inner monologue. But in that case, I do wonder, what is that like if your brain does happen to function that way? The beautiful variety of the human brain. But I believe their eyes are missing because they can't look into the future anymore, right? They are but memories. Their time has passed. Of course, they laid the foundation for the future itself. Obviously, Tsurugi and Yuka are heavily influenced by their grandparents. And it's why you can see Yuka is leaning forward with Yuta, and then you have Tsurugi leaning backwards. Or no, just standing up straight with Maki in the back. So, like, I still do like the duology there. But I do kind of wish we got to see a full old design for them, and a full old design for some other characters, but still, it's fine. We got Mino, my glorious, handsome, tanking blood manipulation goat. We're going to talk about her later. We have this guy who showed up for like one whole chapter to help with the Takopa. And hey, as a person who like just recently had takoyaki, you know, Maru was spitting. Maru was spitting. I'm still shocked that it took me as long as it did to actually try ramen, bro. Yo, the ramen spot I went to, it had fresh made takoyaki, bro. It did burn my soul. like immediately I was like, it was too hot, but it was delicious. But that guy shows up here. We have Yakamoto, and I don't think this guy ever got a name, but this other sorcerer person. But Yakamoto, the inciting incident, he's the reason for basically the back half of the plot. So don't worry. I know many people are disappointed about the end of Mahoraga versus Dabura, but think about it. We wouldn't have even gotten Mahoraga versus Dabura if it wasn't for Yakamoto two-piecing, double pumping cross. So be thankful to the boy. But Yakamoto and his sorcerer guy. We have the RCT user. Do we ever learn who her, like, does she have direct ancestry or is she just random? I don't know. She doesn't look like any particular character. But still, she's here. We have this woman who, someone told me the name. She has a name. Someone told me it. It was in the last review. I don't remember. I'm not going to look it up. I still don't care. But regardless, we have her color design here. We even have guy whose name I don't remember, but the transforming guy who wears things to transform. This filthy, disgusting creature manages to stick along here. We have the baby tiger, essentially the Yuji Itadori. Speaking of Yuji Itadori, we have Yuji Itadori himself. This does go to show that he is fully in his prime. I've seen a lot of fan art with Yuji with just white hair, like notably coloring and everything else, but assuming he has white hair. I'm not sure where that exactly came from, but I think it was before this color design was revealed. Yeah, Yuji, he is wearing an all-white fit, which is actually really nice on him. But at the same time, he still does have his pink hair. He really, truly has not really aged to any point, presumably beyond, like, his 20s? I genuinely think he's just not even prime of his life yet, considering he doesn't have even, like, the slightest inclination, but he may be, like, in his 30s biologically. But regardless, he looks exactly the same, but a lot more wistful. Nobara at his back, like I said, same hair color, but you can definitely tell time has passed for her. But still, for 83, possibly 84, she looks fantastic. Maharaga being colored here, man. Big Raga, the op stopper. You couldn't get a dub, but it don't matter, my boy. I'm glad you got some glaze. I wish we could. Well, admittedly, I do understand, and I'll go into Maharaga versus Dabura and like the thematics of it and why technically us seeing the end of it or the battle having a proper ending would have been like bad thematically, even as cool as it would have been. Like that is a case of like, as much as the power scaler / lover of big fights in me is like, no, like everyone else is, also the thematic guy in me is like, but the narrative though, the storytelling, the battle, like everything else is fine with me on that front. So Maharaga being there, and it's nice that he's represented. And I do also like that the coloration of the people who are no longer with us is a lot more faded, right? Rika has left. That's why she's still portrayed here, but she's definitely more like ethereal and faded. She's in a light orange, the sunset of the past. Same thing with Maharaga, an ancient relic, literally in the sense of, the Dharma wheel and his entire existence, and also, him being gone. And Maki and Yuta. Maki being in green is hilarious because it shows how she's like different from everyone else who's heavily steeped in cursed energy, like Maharaga, like Rika, like Yuta. But then it's interesting because Maki is green, her own unique color, and the Kalyan is also this weird like off green. But to be fair, the Kalyan is also like part of history now, their basis. Though notably, it's confirmed in the chapter the Kalyan didn't die. It just prevented any more of itself from being born. But it's also going to be confirmed later on that like Kalyans haven't made more Kalyans in a while, which is definitely interesting. I wonder why. Maybe just because of the extensive lifespan thing. Like, I don't know. It's probably the same thing with Freerun, where mages, or not mages, elves in that universe don't reproduce that often because they just don't have to, right? Like, arguably, the reason humans are so freakalicious and the reason why a lot of smaller insects and living beings are so freakalicious is because, relatively speaking, we don't have that long lives. Like, obviously, humans are, I say, in the upper bracket of living creatures. Like, we live longer than, I think, literally, especially now. Maybe back in the day, we'd be more in line with things like bears and tigers and lions and stuff like that. But now, I think human life expectancy has gotten so good generally. I think we've basically doubled most fauna. But there still are many different creatures that outlive us. Like the immortal jellyfish. There are many breeds of turtle / tortoise that outlive us. Obviously, there are trees. But, like, I'm talking about fauna here, not flora. And what is it? There's another big one I'm missing. There's the Greenland shark, which lives, like, forever. But there's another vertebrate. There's another fauna that I'm thinking of that lives, like, super duper long. But also, those fauna don't reproduce that often either, just because of a lack of a need to. So the Kalyan may be the same way. And it's interesting that they're cast in this, like, distant, yet still obviously present light, as the Kalyans will still be a major part of Samurian culture. At least attempt to be, considering, what happened to them and their biology. I never realized that Cross and Maru had different colored eyes. That never hit me. How on earth could they ever be confused? Well, to be fair, they still look close enough, but, different markings and different eye colors. Interesting. But we see Maru, of course, Cross, Jabaloma, Osuki's friends. I don't think, did they ever get names? Once again, I'll have to reread Modulo, which luckily / unfortunately enough, will not take too long. But on top of that, we do have Mahito here. Mahito, in his integration into the narrative, I think it does work. Ultimately, I'm sad about my couple beans that threw in the Mahito stocks. Might as well lit them on fire, dog. Could have used them beans for warmth or something, because Mahito, boy, did he let me down in terms of, like, the big fight. But I still do appreciate Mahito sticking thematically where he was. I don't think it really would have made sense for him to be exponentially stronger, considering the whole point of his narrative is that he's a curse and that he can't change it, he can't evolve in the way that humans can, unlike a Ryo Matsukuna type. Speaking of Ryo Matsukuna types, we have my handsome, glorious, jawline, Morgan King Dabura. I wonder who he could be looking at. I wonder who he could be. I wonder who he could be. I wonder who he could be. But regardless, looking glorious, amazing as always. Though I swear his color design changes just slightly every single time. Like, he had green hair, then he has this white hair. I feel like his markings change colors too. I don't know. He changes a lot, but he's very handsome. Wonder who could handle all that. Speaking of, I actually don't know how old this sister is. I'm not gonna make a joke about that. But we have I literally was waiting for her name for 15 years. What is it? What is it? I'm breaking meta. I'm breaking Code Red. We're breaking meta. We're going back. I'm going back. I need to remember the sister's name. I care about that woman's name. I care about that one's name. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Wait, your sister is here. Spatial. There we go. Spatial. Also, looking. I do like how she, like some of the other stories are still focused ahead. Meanwhile, Dabura may be looking at somebody. But still, fantastic color design. Still, she has green hair? I don't know, man. I don't have the same eye colors either. Maybe it's just, well, notably, their eye colors are closer than these two's eye colors. Oh, speaking of characters with hair and eye colors, we do have Wee Wee. It's Wee Wee, right? It's Wee Wee, who's, in a very funny way, is like hiding under Maru's cloak. And obviously has his grandchildren, presumably, here. Now, I hope the grandchildren are being treated poorly, but who knows? Who knows? Who knows? And we see him in a pretty casual light later on. He showed up aura farming, but regardless, as you can see, I spent a whole lot of time in the color page. So you know we're going to spend a whole lot of time in the chapter. So let's not waste more time. Let's actually hop into the chapter itself. And we see that ultimately the decision is unanimous. The decision is unanimous. We will live together with the Kallions. Duh, of course we will. Yeah, right? The reason we cherish Kallions isn't because they don't attack us, or that we can hear their voices. Kallions exist alongside us. That's our world and our way of living. That is... Wait, hold on, let me just complete the page. No matter what the future holds, we'll do everything we can to not abandon them and not take away their dignity. And that I do respect, right? It is like a really complicated topic. Like, obviously, because we have our ancestors, I can't even say we, but our ancestors domesticated dogs and cats a long, long time ago. Though, arguably, there's, like, weird arguments about how, like, cats kind of domesticated us. It's funny by, like, an evolutionary standpoint. Cats kind of just happened to us. Meanwhile, we did actively go over our way to domesticate dogs. For that case, would you still love your dog if the already base existent probability of it randomly attacking you was way higher, right? Like, notably, I had tiny dogs a while ago. They passed away a long time ago now, but they passed away. But before, they were little tiny dogs. They were little... I'm not sure if I can even say the type of dog they were because I'm very scared, but they're little tiny breed of dogs. Even if they were to spontaneously turn feral against me, unless I had a baby nearby, I'm not necessarily too worried. Oh no! The dog that's like 23 pounds soaking wet is attacking! I do that to humans. I do that to tiny people. I know, man, nowadays, if one of my younger cousins is tweaking, I just pick them up by the scruff of their neck. Not scruff of their neck like this, sure. But like, I do the same thing to a little dog if it's suddenly attacking me. But I still love it, right? But I find this very impressive for the Rumelians because this is true dedication to their culture, to their existence. Because obviously we see the giga massive Kallion. It's not tiny. And obviously, while for now they are still safe because their souls are still the same color, if they are willing to risk their future generations to love and worship and still respect creatures like this. Like, imagine if elephants suddenly were like, man, humans kind of suck, and while out on us. We'd be fried. You get 100 people and throw them up against an elephant pack, and the elephant pack is stomping. But because they have reverence for the Kallions, because it's such a deep part of the culture, they're not going to abandon that. And they're going to maintain everything they can with the Kallions in order to make sure that they still get the love and respect and appreciation that they deserve. And it does make sense, right? This is one of the biggest things I was wondering about the whole, like, culture clash and change of culture. One of the major themes of Modulo. How do you address the, not necessarily, I feel like failings is a harsh word, but how do you address the stagnation of a culture and the possibility that it's holding one back? And notably, in this case, we know the Kallions are such a massive part of Rumelian culture. They literally get their names from them, right? Like, their very futures were decided by Kallions before, the erasure of cursed energy. So, obviously, you're not, like, as much as you could argue it was technically holding them back in one way, shape, or form, you're not just going to abandon all that. And I'm glad to see that they're willing to commit to the bit, even at the risk. And there are many things, many practices and ideas in real life that are arguably life-threatening and dangerous. And some of them do actually genuinely involve animals. But it is a beautiful way to maintain and enforce a culture's positive sides and reverence and respect for the life that lives alongside you by maintaining that which is the bond they already had. And of course, they still presumably won't have to deal with this problem for a little bit. Now, once they get freaky, who knows? Who knows? Who knows? Maybe the massive Giga Omni Callion is gonna be like, oh, Samurian flesh. I might even go to try to eat it. But that aside, I do respect their dedication, even if they know it's gonna come with hardship. And we see that Osuki says, we wouldn't make the Callions kill Rumelians. So the reverse should be true as well. I think it's a weirdly worded sentence now I think about it. We wouldn't make Callions kill Rumelians. It's not like that's such I think if I were to write that sentence, I'd say we wouldn't make the Rumelians slaughter Callions, so the reverse should be true. Well, no, I guess it makes sense. We wouldn't make Callions kill Rumelians. So we wouldn't make Rumelians kill Callions either, right? That's the reverse. The reverse should be true. Reverse curse technique, but yeah, obviously they're like, we're gonna give her due respect, and especially considering there are so many Callions on the ship, just committing to a mass culling of the Callions would have been kind of crazy, because they literally did have a worship room for the big one, the most ancient one that they have. So I am glad that they were willing to, at least work with them. Obviously, that's the thing about culture and development and the future and the changes that come in the ever beautiful thing we call life. If you were to look at humanity, even just 200 years ago versus humanity now, it'd be really, really different. Then go with another 200 years before that, it'd be very, very different. Another 200 years before that, and heck, even 200 years from now. I've seen a lot of people worried that, at this point, especially with certain developments, we're probably hitting, a stagnation point for human development. And we may actually be hitting, a flat-out regression point. Humanity has been sort of upcurving. But now the curve, where it was once very, very steep, it may, flatten, if not dip. But it's possible. I think there's still so much can happen in just 2 generations. In 1 generation, heck. So I respect the willingness to develop and change, and I'm very interested to see. Well, we probably won't see it. I'm not sure if Gege is going to make more projects in this universe, especially considering he literally slaughtered the power system. Seemingly, we'll talk about that in a bit. But regardless, we cut away from this meeting from last chapter and go to a new event happening this chapter. As Tsurugi says, really? Man, Rumelians are amazing. And we see Cross admit, I was prepared to take the death penalty if necessary. But it seems everyone feels the same as me. Which is, I will admit, very convenient, but it was only 25 chapters. And also at the same time, man, I'd feel really bad for Cross, because he did not sign up for that. He did not sign up for that. Moro said, hey, bro, you ready to fundamentally change the balance of the universe? Why are we doing this now? I had a talk with some guy I never met before. He gave me a book, and I have a dream, and then they made that dream a reality. But we do see that apparently they did give us a lot of grief, though, which is understandable, right? Obviously, as much as they're willing to accept the possible change in their culture and the dangers that come from maintaining it in the face of odds that may seem very, very unfavorable for, heck, 2 generations from now when all the current Samurians are old and gray, if not flat out dead, I still do. I still do respect that. Y'all could have asked first, but obviously in that moment they didn't really have much time. But we see that Maru says, Callions are family. And that's true, right? Personally, I funnily enough, my two little hounds, my 2 little babies, they were my little baby sisters before I actually had a younger brother. That's how deep it was for me, because they were my family. And they were just animals. And of course, as I grew older, I slowly realized what mortality was, and I was like, oh. And then I found out that dogs live way shorter than humans, and I was like, oh, that's what dog years means. And I was like, oh, they're gonna die one day, and they did. And it was like losing a member of my family. I still feel many different emotions when I think about my poor little beast. But yeah, ultimately, and that's not even a cultural religion thing, right? I didn't worship my dogs. The dogs didn't give me my name, but I love them that deeply. And I know many other people love their pets and treat their pets as family. And I understand why, especially for the levels and depths that Callions are intertwined into Rumelian culture and their very existence as a people. That, yeah, of course, Callions are their family. And they're going to do everything in their power to respect them and hopefully maintain bonds with them rather than break away. But, with it being the case, we see that Yuka says, well, when you put it like that, it really hits home, huh? I still feel like... Ow, my wrist. But I still feel that wasn't even an ow thing. My wrist just cracked. But Okay, actually now it's kind of an out thing to hold my face. But regardless, I do feel somewhat bad for Yuka. It's the two wolves fighting inside me once again. Would someone explain that to me? I messed that up. There's like 4 wolves. When I think the previous analogy where I did 2 wolves, I think I multiplied them by 2 wolves. They're like wolves and fighting inside the wolves, and technically if there were wolves fighting inside the wolves, there'd technically be like 6 wolves inside me, and I really don't want that many wolves inside me, but regardless, there may be that many wolves inside me, because like, I really feel bad for Yuka. As much as her like role thematically works and for the overarching theme of the narrative, I think if there's anyone who was to fight Dabura and sort of like provide a proxy for humanity, it would be Yuka with the 10 shadows technique, and it's well built up and established. I feel bad. She really got like hard pulled from the narrative. She is still the most popular character, or she's the most popular of the main 4 by a long shot though. That poll went 100% in her favor, and I do understand it, but I wish she got more. I really do. But regardless, we see that someone is scolding them. I wonder who it could be. As they go, "You hid your illness from me until the last minute, ignored my wishes and accepted the duel. And you went off to Tokyo to fight an alien alone. Just because it ended well doesn't make it acceptable. You should reflect on your behavior." Both Yuka and Tsurugi are getting scolded. And notably, Yuka is looking directly at this person. Meanwhile, Tsurugi's like, And we see this person say, "But against all odds, you gave it your all. Giving birth to you too is the greatest honor of my entire life. And I'm sure your grandparents and your father are just as proud. But don't you dare worry me like that again." Because they're mama. And like, I don't know. I in many ways, I always have lived a very blessed life, and I think I still continue to now. And I think one of the most major blessings in my life is who is my mama. I love my mama. I would do anything for my mama, except certain things. I don't know, like some things I won't. But regardless, in general, I 100% believe that a majority of me, not just physically, right? Because obviously I wouldn't exist for number 1, and number 2, I just am the male version of her. So yeah, obviously I get a lot from my mom, but also I do have a reverence for her because she consciously helped define who I am. She helped me deal with a lot of the things that I didn't really understand about myself, mainly that I inherited from my dad, the nature, which I would say, like, as much as I do wear my mom's face, I do have my dad's like base copy paste biology and personality build, except for the build. My dad's really, really lean. As you can tell, I'm not lean. But that aside, I do like this moment, right? Especially considering, if you'll remember, all the way back, in fact, we can do this. I got time today. I finally had time to sit down and actually record the review, so I got time today. But we can go all the way back to chapter 1, and we can see that the relationship that both Yuka and Tsurugi had with their mother was presumably a pretty complicated one, especially since, if we can get to it, it was his mother at the funeral that took the ring from Yuka and gave it to Tsurugi. This, and even if, once again, it wasn't her choice, right? The idea that she says it was the Gojo clan's decision, what you want is irrelevant, it still doesn't matter. She's the one who delivered that. And obviously, Tsurugi and Yuka probably have complicated feelings about that to this day. Even if it did end up being the right choice and allowed them to literally save all humanity, it still was a hard choice. But even still, you can tell that she's been there for them the entire time. Obviously, she's been their only parent well before the death of Maki and my brain. Why did my brain forget Yuta? But she's been their only parent since before the death of Maki and Yuta. Iori left. Iori abandoned them. Iori, in fact, I saw a lot of people hoping Iori would return. Iori didn't. We don't even know if he knows what happened. He's gone. And while, of course, their mother says, "I'm sure your grandparents and your father are just as proud," like he's not here. The person who was present in both Tsurugi and Yuka's life is their mother. She raised them up on her own. She birthed them. And obviously, it's great to see her emotions come forth and be like, "You two really, really worried me." But in stark contrast to Maki's mother, who could really only admit it in death, right? The idea that she's so proud of what her daughter ended up becoming. This woman, who I don't think has a name too. Like, man, why is so many characters fucking other names? But regardless, the daughter-in-law to Yuta and Maki is able to tell her children directly, if admittedly not to their face, and she does walk away from them and hide. But she does admit, giving birth to you two is the greatest honor of my life. She has that deep-seated pride in them. And you can see for a moment that like harsher relationship, the disciplinarian that she was with them, is reflected here. As she tells him you should reflect on your behavior, you can see Yuka look down and sad with an ellipses as Tsurugi finally does look forward, but clearly seems disengaged. But it is at that moment of praise, when their eyes open up and they realize that, yeah, their mama still loves them, and always loved them, and is proud to have them exist. Now, obviously, I'm no father, as far as I know. As far as I shouldn't be. I shouldn't be. But regardless, I'm no father. As far as I know. I'm never, ever pulling on Iori. If I ever am lucky enough to become a father, that kid's gonna be sick of me. That kid's gonna be sick of me. But, with it being the case, I love seeing that, right? The idea that, unlike her grandmother-in-law, she's able to tell her children directly how proud she is of them. And even if she doesn't know where Iori is, how Iori is, why Iori is, she reassures them that their father will be proud. And of course, the grandparents that they idolize so much will be proud of them too. And she leaves a little bit with a motherly threat. Don't you dare make me wear like that again. And as a person who loves his mama, has one of the sweetest mamas in the entire world, if not the sweetest mama in the entire world. The threats are valid. The threats are valid. Oh, trust me, the threats are valid. But, of course, it is after that Tsurugi is able to very casually admit, with a smile on his face, that, yeah, family is important. And I will admit, family from like a maternal/paternal perspective is still definitely played with in Modulo, but isn't, like, I'd say it's one of many themes, and it's on the lesser side of it. I feel like family from like a siblinghood perspective has been more danced with, obviously, because, you know, all four of our main characters are literally related to each other. Well, obviously not Yuka and Tsurugi just yet, Yuka and Tsurugi and Maru and Cross, but we have a pair of twins and a pair of siblings. So obviously family has still been a fundamental bond in like how you interpret and how you deal with family. But I still do think there definitely could have been more on the family side of things. I'm not going to just sit here and glaze the entire time. I wish we could have gotten the mother's name. She ended up being more honest and present in her kids' lives than Iori ever was, so definitely wish she could have gotten a name. And also, I do wish that we could have gotten a bit more out of Maru and Cross's father / mother. Really, you know, I do love, you know, motherhood, and I love my dad too, but still, I still think motherhood is very, very important. She barely even gets a mention. She doesn't even get a name or a design. But neither do Cross and Maru's father. He doesn't get a name or design either. And obviously it's because Dora ended up becoming the real daddy, right? But considering how important the idea of culture is, and how fundamentally that ties into something like family, for how Maru was basically indoctrinated into rebellion culture, a lot of that comes from inheriting the nature / the nurture of his father. I wish you could have gotten more out of that, because it doesn't really end there. So yeah, family is important, including paternal / maternal family, but it's like, it's a theme that almost feels thrown in on top of the like brotherhood or siblinghood theme, rather than like an intentional integration overall, which I think could have worked better. But that aside, we see that Yuka says, "Aw, you're being so honest today," and she nudges him. And Tsurugi, who we know is way stronger now, goes, "Shut up. Don't touch me." And hey, Tsurugi, and anyone who has a younger sibling, hug them. Mess with them. Have fun. Because one day you won't see him as often. So, enjoy it. Enjoy it. It's a beautiful thing to have another person who's just like you. And at least for me, I only have the one. Even if you have multiple, hug them all. Love them all. Well, unless they're like bad people. If they're bad people and they've done horrible things to you, then don't. But regardless, yeah, enjoy your family. It is a beautiful thing and very important. Found family, biological family, love them. But with it being the case, we do cut back to this new trio of sorts as Yuji goes, I was scared. I was scared of my friends dying. And after consuming the DPWs and hovering in that space between a curse and a human like Choso, just thinking about what everyone else must think. Just thinking about what everyone else must think of me. It was scary. And then what? I thought I just shouldn't meddle with the present anymore. Especially since I'm supposed to be some old geezer, even dead by now. And that, like, it is always interesting, and it's very interesting to see Yuji's response to, like, the immortality question, or just the longevity. But in Yuji's case, at least for seemingly right now, it does seem to be, like, a genuine pseudo-immortality. What would you do? Right? Like, what would you do if you suddenly found out that you didn't have a timer anymore? Obviously, we don't know if Yuji could have had kids. Seemingly enough, heck, we don't even know when he realized he was truly eternal, right? Like maybe once he saw the gray hairs start popping up on Obara and Megami and Toto, maybe he was like, huh, kind of strange. And I'm not, but, like, still, I don't know how long it took him, but it doesn't seem like he even tried to have kids. Because all of it, man, maybe would, like, if my kids weren't immortal too, though, I feel really, really like, I can imagine them. That'd be rough. So, like it is really a lose scenario. But it is a hard thing. It's a hard fate, essentially, to think about living in a world which you know will fall before you. And, like, obviously, I, like many others, don't just define the world as in, like, the planet I live on, even though naturally this is the planet I live on. I define the world by the people that are in it, right? By my parents, by my brother, by my friends, by my family in general. I am defined by them. And obviously, friends come and go, family moves on, or sometimes just flat out disappears. And sometimes they do reappear. I had a cousin that was basically my brother, vanished for the better part of, like, a decade and a half. They just came back into life. These things happen. These things happen. But regardless, even still, that is my life. More defining than any planet I live on. Obviously, I can only live here. So, if I were to suddenly realize that one day, that family is going to fade and I won't. And then if I make another family, that family will fade and I won't. And then it'll happen again and again and again. Like, the agony that would be there, yeah, I don't blame Yuji for fully disassociating. I think it is a bit unfortunate that he disassociated and then left some of the people he could have been there for. Yeah, I think that's sad. But notably, it's hard to tell who died after Hana. Heck, I don't know when Megami died. And I do think this chapter confirms he's dead. I saw a lot of people complaining about Megami should be dead. Like, I don't know, man. I do genuinely think that Yuji was there for a long time, but then ultimately he did leave for a bit. And I don't blame him for disassociating, because the pain, especially the pain that Yuji was already going through, had to be too much. And especially with the whole idea that his wish, or the wish of the very grandfather, the twin reincarnation of Sukuna, gave him was, hey, make sure when you die, you don't die alone. And then Yuji was never going to die. Like that existence is a torture in of itself. So I cannot fully blame Yuji for abandoning everybody and making a mistake. Yuji is a fantastic character because he is fallible, because he's able to make mistakes. And this doesn't change that, it only enhances it. And we see, as he squeezes that disgusting thing, that Yuji has finally taken his hood off. He's unzipped it a little bit. And he looks immaculate. I know he's not like a dad. That seemingly is what happens to end of series protagonists or post series protagonists. Like their barber just absolutely annihilates them. But no, Yuji's haircut only got better. Man, bro's majestic. I ain't gonna lie to you. But regardless, we see that Yuji admits, but if you don't look at the present, you can't see the future or the past. You know, and that is a very interesting idea, right? Obviously, I'm all for reflection, and I do a lot of it on the past. I do a lot of thinking and planning for the future, right? Technically, what I'm doing now is quote-unquote planning for the future, because I'm recording this the day before it goes up. So I'm planning for the future, on the assumption that the future will still be there. But when Yuji says, look, I do feel like live is just as appropriate a four-letter word that starts with L. Because if there's... Funnily enough, there are a couple things. If I could go back in time and talk to a younger man, be like, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, and invest in X. Insert any crazy investment that's happened over the past couple of years here. But the main thing I tell him is, hey, live a little more. That future that, ooh, why? Why? Why is it always body? Why is it always when I'm trying to say something poetic? They're like, it's time to burp. My apologies. Excuse me. But I'd go back and tell the guy, that future that you're so worried about, the job, the college, all that, don't worry about it too much. You're a smart kid. You'll figure that out. Look at the people beside you. Connect with them more. Even if one day they still will go away. Some in a more permanent way. Some in a way of just drifting apart. Live in that moment more. Stop worrying so much about the you that you don't like from the past. Stop worrying so much about the person you want to be in the future. Because he'll be there. And I am. At least for right now. Now, the future me, I have no idea. But regardless. The mentality I live with now is one more of living, loving, and accepting the present with a general acknowledgement of the vague concept that is the future. I don't fear it as much as I used to. I don't worry over it as much as I used to. No, mentally, I still have some fears. Some. But in spite of all that, I'm glad that Yuji realized the importance and the beauty of the present and how the present grounds. Because obviously you can't look at the present from the future, and you can't look at the present from the past. But you can look at both past and plan for future from the present. It is that core foundational moment of now that allows us to be. Time is a flat line. It just keeps moving forward. You can never go back on it. So I suppose it's more so a line segment, a continuous line segment, but regardless, I'm glad Yuji has been able to find that out and decide to live in it, to embrace it. Now, of course, he's still... His what he says here is still going to be very focused on the future and even a bit of sort of like dancing around the present, but we'll get to that soon. Yuji's just idea of the importance of the now is nice. And I do think it fits into the overarching themes of Modulo, right? Because a big thing that I've seen commonly tossed around the community, and you know, now the narrative's over, I'm definitely going to make some of my thoughts videos on Maharaga's narrative implementation, Dabura's, Yuka's, so like I'm gonna, all of my thoughts videos I made while the series is still going on, you know I'm gonna make more follow-up my thoughts videos now the series is over. And one of the things I've seen, one of the complaints is that Yuji feels like he didn't really need to be here. You know, like he almost feels like a fan service include, they didn't get full fan service, right? Same thing for Mahito, same thing for all that. But I do think Yuji's presence here in the now was very, very important. And his return to the present now is very, very important. Because without this narrative, without this piece of Modulo, I think you'd be missing a fundamental part of the past and the present all looking towards a brighter future. Obviously, you could have implemented a variety of old characters. You could have possibly used Megami or Nobara or Toto, who apparently knew everything anyway. Heck, you could have just kept using Oiwi or Wiwi. But I think Yuji works for his very nature as a being, quote-unquote, transcendent of time. A being from the past who lives in the now that will live far into the future. I think he works very, very well. But of course, we'll go more into that in the My Thoughts video. As we see that Nobara goes, yeah, maybe it's all connected. And we see Yuji explain, I was searching for something to change the way I lived, but I ignored what I should have been doing. What the aliens did was something I'd given up on decades ago. And that is very interesting, right? Decades ago. Now, we still don't know when Hana's funeral was. We don't know when Megami presumably died. But decades ago, if Yuji and Nobara are both in their 80s right now, decades ago could mean like 50, back when they were like 50 and still around, presumably. Or maybe even 40. We're going decades. But that aside, it is very interesting to hear that Yuji had sort of given up on breaking free of the cycle of curses. It makes sense somewhat for his very nature as quote-unquote a cog of the machine, but notably a big part of the narrative of the end of JJK was the idea that Yuji was sort of breaking away from that mindset. That the cycle of curses didn't truly have to be eternal, but he couldn't actualize it. It was a hope, it was a dream, but it could never be made into reality. At least he didn't feel like it could. But the future came. It came to the present. and it actualized a dream that he never thought could be. And I think that's beautiful. That outside factor, that force, that greater thing beyond. And remember what the Simordians, especially the Remelians, are an allegory for. What they represent. Alright? Obviously in the story, they're literal aliens. I want you to think about, in our real world, what would the Simordians, Remelians be an allegory for? They came from another place to escape oppression from the place that they were at. And shock horror, they made the place better. I wonder what that could mean. I wonder what that can mean, especially in the current climate of Japan. You know, where Gege lives. And their whole issues around a certain major issue. Hey, I wonder what that thing is. But regardless, it is nice to see that Yuji has been able to do at least a part of what he always dreamed of, yet had given up on so long ago. And we see that Yuji admits that in his mind, I should have done it on my own. Help people. But I lost sight of that again. I know what I need to do now. And I want you to help me. Kugisaki. Fine by me. Now, I saw a lot of people really get on this one. I will admit, I also feel a little bit about this. I know but it's still like Japanese culture, right? It's kind of rough that they don't call each other first names. Like, and notably, it doesn't even seem like in the playful / weird subconscious implementation of my own culture way that I am, right? Like, I've mentioned this many times before. Man, if you know me and we're close friends, shock horror, I'm always calling you Mr. or Mrs. or Mix last name. It's just, it's a law. I don't know what it is. It's like, it's funny enough, I start out really, really formal, then I calm down a little bit, and then I get super formal again. Somehow, it's always Mr., Mrs., Mix, regardless. But it is crazy after all this time. Still called her Kugisaki. But at the same time, this is a formal request, right? Like, I was initially going to fully hop on their bandwagon of like, yeah, they should be calling each other first names. Especially poor Fushiguro, man. Can't get a Megami name drop in the entire series, dog. We gotta go straight for Fushiguro. But regardless, this is serious. And they hadn't seen each other in a while, so it's okay. It's like that awkward tension when you first reunite with somebody you hadn't talked to in a long time. Even if, like, Yuji coming to Nobara for something important that he doesn't fully understand and wants to make a request of her help with, which does make sense. We'll get into what he wants to do in a sec. Regardless, I've had those moments where, like, I hadn't talked for somebody in a while and it was awkward at first, but then the chemistry comes back, you get used to it. And I do like how Nobara is more than willing and ready to help Yuji. Help the friend. And let me specifically comment on Yuji's I should have done it on my own. I think him failing at doing that is actually better. Because remember, Yuji did end up developing into another of the strongest archetype, right? The idea of isolation, guiding the world on his own, being entirely by his own. But he failed. Because of course he did. Because Ryomen Sukuna was the strongest, and he failed to fundamentally change the Jujutsu world. Satoru Gojo was the strongest, and he fundamentally failed to change the nature of the Jujutsu world. Toji Fushiguro, for a time, when he was alive and around before Gojo awakened, he was the strongest, and failed to change the Jujutsu world. Hashimo Hajime, Ryu Ishigori, even Kenjaku couldn't really fundamentally change that system. Even if they were all extremely powerful individuals, it was just that. They were individuals. So, Yuji's failing at doing that, and only being able to do it once he collaborates with the future, that's beautiful. And once again goes to show the very important idea that is truly consistent with the narrative, that the individual might of somebody should, one, not just not be relied on, but two, should not be allowed to prosper. Because humans, by our very nature, are a social, interactive species. It would not make sense for any of the strongest tier archetypes to truly succeed in changing the fundamental world when something that would require that level of change is a group effort. So of course, now that Yuji understands that, he comes to Nobara for that group effort. And that's beautiful. Maybe like, shouldn't he have learned at the end of JJK? Yeah, but he clearly, I'd never mind it when characters, especially after a long time has passed, sort of lose their way. Especially in a world as cyclical as JJK, it must have been tiring and despairing to see nothing change, including Yuji's own reflection. Nothing would change at all, no matter how much work he did. And that has to be despairing. But of course, now he is broken free from despair. However, we do get to see the thing speaks. Yay! As it goes, you dragged me out so I wouldn't have to feel awkward alone. But my entire reason for being here disappeared in seconds. Yeah, because you're worthless. Like you're actually like. I just don't. I mean, that April Fools. I just need to sit down and actually make a video on why I don't like Panda. One of my mutuals really think it's like I had to literally sit down and explain to one of my mutuals like, no, I just really don't like the character. And like, really? Why? And I did give them a whole real explanation. And they were like, funny enough, I explained the exact reasons why I do not like the character. I think he's a net negative on the narrative. It's a net negative on the narrative. And they looked at me and were like, okay, but why? But why though? But another video for another time. However, we see that Nobara goes, oh, hey, you can still talk, which is crazy. I'm guessing, obviously, the only person who knew about how Yaga made Panda did end up being Brain? Guitar curse technique? Brain? Old man. My brain keeps screaming Old Man Yaga. No, that's the guy who made that filthy, disgusting creature. What's his name? It's not Masamichi. It's Masamichi Yaga is... Hold on. Guitar man. Guitar Principal Gakuganji? I think it's Principal Gakuganji. Let me just make sure. Yeah, Gakuganji was the only person to know how to like reform Panda, and presumably he didn't ever tell anybody or didn't repair Panda, because even with the higher up slain, there would be a possibility of someone finding out about the secret and then just making an army of cursed corpses, right? So Panda was unfortunately left to this fate because presumably Masamichi, or no, Gakuganji never helped him, and then no one knew. So no one could do anything for Panda other than store him away in a storage closet, which is pretty terrible as he was still conscious. And I think Yuta knew that, but hey, it's unfortunate. They had to do something with him because obviously he wasn't useful anymore, if he was ever. And we see Panda admit, sometimes I must be feeling good today, which, once again, it's kind of just like plot, whatever. Fine. Let the Panda thing. I think a lot of people be happy that Yuji at least has some person that will always be there eternally with him, and presumably as long as he keeps getting fed cursed energy, he can probably speak. Like maybe this stuff from earlier on in the chapter is Yuji like literally like infusing his own cursed energy into Panda to allow him to speak more, because we know the main reason Panda can't move or speak anymore is because he needs a constant flow of cursed energy. And if you remember, when Yuji was first learning how to control his cursed energy, he was working with Yaga's puppets. He was feeding it cursed energy, and that allowed it to attack him in the first place. So maybe even if subconsciously Yuji's doing that for Panda, allowing him to speak a lot. But we see that Yuji completely glosses over Panda, because of course, why wouldn't he? As he goes, so, anyway, since there won't be any new sorcerers born from now on, you and I should handle the countermeasures. Plus Toto. Once again! Of all the things, like, why does he know so much? Is he the new higher up? Is Toto just the GOAT? Like, I mean, obviously he is, but like, is Toto just that guy? Like, how does he know all this? Is he the guy running everything? Like, what? Like, but the thing is, no one knew where to find him. Right? Like, he wasn't even involved. That was one of the many, like, open comic strip things where, like, yeah, Toto's around and still alive and still doing stuff, but he wasn't, like, reachable at all by Jujutsu Society. It was weird. But, let's see. You and I should handle the countermeasures. Plus Toto. I thought you'd suddenly gone senile and lost your mind, but if his curse technique was involved, then that makes sense. It's just sad. It's just sad, but, like, yeah. If anyone could bring Yuji Egg to the photo, it would be Toto. Let's see. Cursed spirits must be exercised right after they're born, before they get too powerful. So we gotta teach the current sorcerers everything about using barriers and exorcism techniques. The barriers are based on Master Tengen, right? It's possible they might hold even after sorcerers stop being born. And that is true, but still, obviously, creatures can still be born in the barriers, so it makes sense that they'd want somebody around to maintain and reinforce the barriers, and also just master exorcism techniques, and unfortunately not pass them down, since sorcerers won't be born anymore. But, of course, there will be heavily restriction users, and there will be cursed tools. So exorcism techniques could just be physical combat fighting styles. And we see that Yuji goes, next, we'll need to hunt down every physically gifted individual with a heavenly restriction who will be born from now on, and map out their bloodline. I think that's a little bit unfortunate. That's a little bit of like, I mean, like, obviously I do get it. They're going to be superhumans. So you want to keep a registry of all the superhumans. But that does feel a little, like, let the world just make them, dog. Let them live and be free. Of course, I get what you, because he's worried about like a bunch of evil Maki and Toji's running around, and with presumably multiple sorcerers with powerful curse techniques possibly being born, but now unable to be born. The system still exists. It will still correct itself. They didn't truly properly erase all cursed energy naturally. They only just erased the possibility of new beings being born with it. So it makes sense that they keep popping up, and it makes sense that they want to keep track of it. But still, it's a little bit rough. I don't know. I've always been very, I guess unless it's a job registry, I've always been very hesitant to like, would you like to add your name to this list? I'm like, no. And don't worry, it's not even like a phrasing thing. I just don't want to do it. But there's that. And then we see that Yuji says, then we need to secure and mass produce cursed tools. And Panda goes, that'll be easy if you can get the former big three families to cooperate. Which obviously, yeah, Yuji could just force it. Unfortunately, while I mentioned the idea of him doing something alone is basically bad and shouldn't happen, he still very easily could just make the big three families listen. It is interesting that the big three families did all last, though. Obviously, Maki shock horror, I know a lot of people are confused by this, didn't slaughter all the women and children. That just didn't happen. So, like, obviously the Zen clan is still around. But they did rise to prominence and stay as one of the big three families. And the Kama clan was also massively wiped, but all of them were still around enough that they could continue to actually be big three families. Presumably the Gojo's clan is still the strongest, though, because it had Yuta, and then now Yuka and Tsurugi. So, like, they're still up top, but there are other big three families. And we see that Yuji goes, but the last thing's the toughest part. When I die, I'll become a cursed object. Now, this one's interesting. Very full circle. Obviously, I get why he comes to Nobara with this, because Nobara's technique does have weird interaction with the soul, and obviously she had direct interaction with Sukuna's finger, and we know Sukuna's finger, unless it was taken, they still do technically have a reference for, like, the grave wax and stuff that was used in order to seal him. And also, like, will it only be 10 Yuji fingers? Because he doesn't have 4 fingers? Will they take 10 Yuji fingers and 10 Yuji toes? If people got to pop Yuji toe nuggets in order to manifest them? But that's interesting, right? Yuji deciding to become a cursed object. And remember, Sukuna and all the other cursed objects were sentient. They were just waiting. They were around. Like, they just existed in their inner realm. They didn't actually ever really die, or at least that version of them. You could argue maybe their original dying, it's like, oh lord, it's like Soma all over again, where it's like, well, we have these base copies. We have like the original, then we have the copies that is what's actually stored in the fingers, or the remnants that then get put into a new body. But it does seem like it's original mind, original soul, and everything. So technically, none of the sorcerers that joined the clan game from the past ever really died. They were just sealed away for a bit. And Yuji's essentially consigning himself to be sealed away forever, as the only person to do this too. He doesn't ask Nobara to do it, just he himself. And we see both. Panda just doesn't care because Panda's disgusting, but Nobara goes, okay, right. Which obviously is a very valid reaction. While Yuji is no Sukuna in terms of mentality, it's not like they have a very positive association with the idea of, you know, making people cursed objects. It's not really a thing. And obviously it's a thing they don't really know how to do. As Yuji says, even after Tokyo gets rebuilt, I think I can keep the cursed spirit damage at 0 for the next 200 or 300 years while I'm still around. After that, if we leave things behind, if we leave behind the right things, I think we can work out to to put up an illusion of safety. And that is true, right? Ultimately, while they did manage to massively get rid of and wipe the curse he worsens, they still technically are made to deal with the chaos that just exists within humanity, right? Like, as much as I would like to believe that all of humanity would suddenly be able to put their differences aside and super giga gank an external threat to all of humanity, dog, we should have done that forever ago. Humanity should let's be real honest, y'all. The act of war in and of itself is barbaric and stupid. It's the most base, and notably, I know there have been very important wars fought over the years for very important things, and there are battles that rage and wars that have raged on for decades that rage on to this day. But the violent conquest of one another, even just simple evil as it exists, is kind of like dumb and animalistic shock horror. At least that's my honest opinion of it all. Whether you agree or not, you know, it's each their own. But that's how I feel. And with that being the case, it is true that the illusion of safety is all they cast up. Because not only will curses still continue to be born, but also that wait, no. After that, if we leave behind the right things, we can cast the illusion of safety. Not only will the curse still be born, so people will have to take care of it after Yuji's presumed death, but also people will always be people. Dog, there is no cursed energy. Can I say stuff? I won't go too deep into it, but there are many different things, negative, evil, dark, horrific things that happen, that many people know about, that we all know about to this day, that just don't get addressed. The illusion of safety is what many people live under. Heck, it's what I live under. It's what I make content under. But that illusion will be better than life constantly being assailed by curses. That's essentially what Yuji means here. And we see that Yuji admits, but aliens came here. Who knows what will happen in the future? Maybe hundreds of years from now, even if cursed energy really becomes necessary again, someone can eat me. That is very interesting. Obviously, I think this has sort of become like the linchpin for any hope and cope. A lot of people, myself included, were kind of hoping for the opposite of what happened, where just everyone will become sorcerers rather than, no one being allowed to be sorcerers anymore. But this is the hopium in the copium, right? I've already seen an amazing video where like Arame and a Sukuna reincarnated years upon years later consume a Yuji finger. Or Sukuna does, or like the Sukuna's reincarnation does, and then he meets Yuji, and then Yuji shocked to see him, and then Sukuna somehow having his memories, I guess, is shocked to see Yuji, or at least confused. So like there is that possibility that further on to the future we're going to see that, and we could see many like hybrids between Samurians, Rumelians, and humans. Like it could be really really cool, especially considering a certain Rumelian or a certain Samurian, not Rumelian, shows up at the end of the chapter, but still. Nice idea. I don't know though, especially with Modulo being a short run series and Viz really allowing Gege to make Modulo a short run series when he got an entirely separate artist. I do genuinely believe that Gege's kind of done with JJK. I'm actually really shocked they came back and did Modulo in the first place. So it's an open door. It's a nice idea. Would I like to see it? Absolutely. But then we'd have to start all over again. And I wish we got more of the current cast as it were, even if it were another long running series. But with art done by Yuji Wasaka Sensei, my toes would be curling. It would be a whole new thing, and we just have one remnant once again. That remnant being Yuji Todori, which would be nice, but still. And we'd have nothing else to link to. We'd have to really start from fresh, which may be what Gege wants or not, but still. I think this presumably will be the end. But of course, I said that at the end of JJK, so we'll never know. But with it being the case, we see that Nobara says, "We'd better hope there's someone as gross as you in the future who would actually swallow part of a corpse." And Panda says, "Besides, who even knows how to make cursed objects come to be?" And Yuji says, "That's why I'm saying, well, everyone will have to figure it out." And we see Nobara admit, "It's times like these. I wish wait. Why am I struggling with that sentence? It's times like these I wish Fushiguro was around." And like, I've seen a lot of people take massive issue that this is like literally the only Megami mention, like flat out the only Megami mention in the entire manga. And yeah, it is rough that they call Fushiguro at all, but still, they're kind of in the midst of a formal talk, sort of deciding the fate of one of their friends. And also, Megami may have just been dead for a while, man. Like, it's fine. I think Megami's story is wrapped up in JJK. I don't think it was the best of stories. Still not gonna find me glazing Megami to the moon and back, as much as they do still like and respect his story. But yeah, I do feel bad for the Megami fans who are really, really hoping for him to have some sort of return, some sort of interaction, especially with Yuka being a 10 Shadows user. It would have been neat to even get like some hints of a possible Uncle Megami who was like helping her understand how to manifest the powers in her before. Like, it would have been nice to see, but I don't necessarily think it was necessary. Heck, people are still questioning if Yuji was necessary in the narrative. Y'all want to talk about extraneous characters, that would be Megami. But that being the case, we cut away from the future planning trio as Yuji makes this hilarious little happy face. Reminds me of Kara, ironically enough. But that aside, we see Usami and Jabaloma playing catch. Not just them, but like literally everyone. Not literally everyone, mainly the Rumelians. As Usami goes, I just got confirmation that all the cursed spirits in Tokyo have vanished. I can persuade the higher-ups with that fact alone. And that is, obviously a mass exorcism all at once thanks to the actions of the Rumelians. And possibly an unknown Yuji. Yeah, of course the higher-ups are gonna be like, well, yeah, we can do this. But then, we see Usami say, but, just in case, we should both keep the fact that sorcerers will no longer be born off the record for the time being. Which, obviously that caused a pretty mass panic, especially for the big three families, who are presumably all represented in the higher-ups, learning that, essentially, outside of a monopoly on cursed tools, which actually could arguably reinforce their power and their monopoly, they aren't really gonna... Their lines are dead. there will be no more 10 shadows. There will be no more projection sorcery. There will be no more limitless or 6 size users. That's it. It's done. It's over. No blood manipulation. It's all done. And yeah, talking about culture shock, like the Remelians went through the loss of their direct connection to the Kallions for their next of kin. Taking away the ability of being a sorcerer is a lot for the big 3 families. Just a lot for anyone who could have possibly been a sorcerer. But still, it had to be done. And in order to help liberate, or at least somewhat slow down, if not greatly mitigate the cycle of curses. But we see Jabaloma say, there's still a usable amount of mold left over from Naunox, which is, it's nice to confirm that the Naunox did fully get used up and destroyed, though. Well, not fully used up and destroyed, because obviously there is a good bit left, but it's gone, right? like the Naunox as a whole, in order to be utilized, did basically say deuces and get up out of there. It's a nice price to be paid. And once again, Heartland confirming that the Rebellions are here to stay. Presumably need to get housing. But we see, and he admits, but unless we combine Carcinogy and Mole, it's a pretty weak bargaining chip, isn't it? And yeah, that is true. But still, the ability to make a ship that crossed multiple light years, mind you. I think that statement's in this chapter. Like, Samaria is nowhere nearby. And they made that trip in years. Like, the Naunox is literally the fastest thing in all of JJK. It's built like that. But we see that Usami says, still, the energy crisis will continue to progress in the next few decades. What I'm more afraid of is the advantage of cursed spirits disappearing and their future occurrences dropping sharply. It's the disadvantages of sorcerers not being around anymore and that being used as a negative campaign against the Samarians. And that is true, right? Like ultimately, since the Samarians did get rid of all curses, that seems nice until all sorcerers are going to be born, and that would lead to just a mess of messes. It'd be really, really bad. And obviously, curse energy still exists now, and they don't have a Dabura. They don't have a massive weapon of leverage, and we don't know if Maru and Cross could do the whole Chaos and Harmony thing all over again. So they truly are, in a way, defenseless, especially since they have no way of leaving since the Naunox is destroyed. But with it being the case, we see that Jabaloma says, I'll find out eventually. And Usami says, then we need to act first. And naturally, we see Yuji saying, blame it all on me. Say all Maru did was follow my orders. Tell your bosses that. And call me if you need me. That last part is what gets me, right? Call me if you need me. He's like, I may not be around for a little bit, but I'm reachable now. Here's the phone number. Here's how Toto's been finding me. Toto doesn't even use a phone. Toto just appears. Toto and Yuji definitely have the dynamic where they just show up at each other's places on no warning. No warning. It just happens. We're doing something. And that's literally how it is. I'm pretty sure that's how Yuji got all the lore drops off screen. But I do like that, right? Yuji, who disconnected himself from the Sorcery Society, is like, nope, I'm back. And in this case, he's throwing his weight around a bit, but he still isn't necessarily throwing his weight around in the same way that a Gojo did or that a Sukuna did. But he is using his power and his status to protect somebody. Like Sukuna did for Ume, and like Gojo did for Yuji. And obviously Yura. But with it being the case, Jabaloma says, oh, are you talking about that one matter? And Yuji said, or Usami says, no, that didn't come from me. And it is obviously the matter of the world knowing about Samurians, or at least Japan, as we see a streamer, or a live streamer go, yo, I'm going to assume all of you know this, but 69 years ago, a scientist appeared. Something huge happened in Tokyo, Japan, and the video of it keeps getting uploaded and taken down ever since. Yeah, obviously, Big Raga. which is hilarious. I do like the idea that Mei did live stream the clips, and of course, when you live stream something, some of the clips are going to be ripped, some of them are going to be lost, quality may degrade, but now they have all these references and can pull them, and thus they're pulling them now. And we see this live streamer person go, anyway, the same demon whose Satoru Gojo supposedly destroyed then suddenly showed back up in Tokyo. It's a scientist thing. Look, it's the same curse from 69 years ago. Which is crazy. It's the funny number, bro. It's the funny number. Laugh. But obviously Maharaga here and Maharaga there. I think the angle shows it here is so funny. The Chadley 2018 Maharaga versus the Chadley Fat Wheel Maharaga versus the unchadley Little Wheel Raga. I know it's literally disrespected, but it's funny to see. But yeah, Big Raga's back. He acted as a linking point. But look who's getting glazed, my glorious boy. As the streamer says, a scientist faced off with a scientist. Wait, no. Sorry, that doesn't work.
The curse faced off with a scientist who had 3 eyes. And according to my sources, he's supposedly an alien.
Who is the sources? It's Wee Wee.
But according to my sources, he's supposedly an alien who came from the planet Samuria, several 100 million light years away.
Now, that may be exaggeration, but I want you to think about that. They made it to Earth, if that's even like a fraction of a fraction true. Even if Samuria was just a light year away. Okay, maybe not that. But like, even if Samuria was just like 10 light years away, they made it in 2 years. Dog. The Naunox could literally blow up the entire planet if it came flying in too fast. Like, legit, the Naunox is cracked for it to make it there. You wanna know what else is cracked? Dabra, because he's gonna make it back. Well, you read the chapter. Everyone's been read the chapter. So Dabra really makes it back from that same distance by force of will. he just did it. But with it being the case,
why is an alien fighting a curse? Well, the alien must be a scientist of justice. After all, he's fighting that creature, that beast, that demon in our place. Mad respect. I'm so moved. I can't wait to meet him.
Oh, someone else can't wait to meet him either. Possibly go meet with him. But regardless, we see Wee Wee and their grandchildren watching this stream. Presumably they were the ones. Obviously, remember, Wee Wee did... Well, Wee Wee didn't have Mei-Mei's exact same curse technique, but presumably he had all the footage that Mei-Mei recorded. He, presumably being one of the higher-ups or manipulating it, was able to upload the footage, take it down, upload the footage, mess with it, and just have it. And give up good PR, essentially, right? And I do like that we can see Wee Wee is essentially intentionally giving the aliens good PR, right? He could have easily been evil and capitalized and been just a bad person, but Wee Wee, he's ultimately a better person. Presumably than his sister. And thusly is doing this and having his grandkids help out a little bit with this whole modern streaming technology. Very, very nice. I'm glad that he helped out. And we see that Yuka goes, so it was true that the new Shadow-style crows can broadcast curses. And that's interesting, right? The new Shadow-style crows. So, like, did the Black Bird technique get, like, built into the new Shadow-style school? Or, like, are crows just robots now? I don't know. Could be both. But we see that ultimately Usami says, I really prefer if they didn't. Which is hilarious. But still, it makes sense. You want to get as much positive PR as you can for the Sumerians. Especially for the big 3 families. But even the general public, right? As they will presumably, especially with Tokyo being rebuilt, it's not like just the Sumerians are going to be living there. It will be people too. And especially since the last bit of press the Sumerians possibly got for the whole world to see was like, Dabra declaring war in Tokyo. Though seemingly that was just isolated the Jujutsu society. Yeah. Absolutely, they need all the press they can get, the good press. But we see that naturally Tsurugi goes, hey, why are you playing catch today? And we see Usami say, playing catch was kind of boring when you were a kid, right? But it's fun when you grow up. Getting light exercise to get your blood flowing, chatting about nothing in particular, she tossed the ball back and forth. It's a form of communication you can actually see. And I do, notably, I don't play catch because the hand-eye coordination is kind of buns. But you know what I do now occasionally? I try to burst out into a sprint, like full top speed. Obviously, I'm nowhere near as fast as I was back when I was a younger lad. My knees didn't hurt as much. Though admittedly, my knees are doing fine now. Now that I've actually started consistently working out, my knees don't hurt anywhere, like at all anymore. They used to hurt bad when I was just big and heavy, and I still am big and heavy. But now I'm big and heavy and muscular, so I guess the knees are like, fine, we'll adapt. Call Maharaga. But now I do. Like occasionally, if there's just like a short distance, I'll just instead of like jogging over to someplace, I'll just and I. It's somewhat. I feel so bad. I didn't know a person was coming, so they were like walking around a corner. I didn't see him, and I just zoomed past them. And I am a big guy, like 6'1", 6'2", 230. Yeah, I'd be horrified if I just saw me just zoom past somebody. But catch is a nice way, and obviously the whole point of this is truly metaphor. We see a Samuria woman, a Remelia woman, throwing the ball to a sorcerer. And seemingly another case here, and I blame him, I'm trying to pull me rebellion too. Let's see my kids have 2.5 eyes. But regardless, we see that this is the form of connection. The ball being this like catches being a symbolism for 2 different groups of people coming together. And we see that both Maru and Cross suit up as they go, it's perfect for taking the time to get to know each other. And we see that Yuka goes, is that the reason old guys suddenly start playing golf? And no, Kinda. Like, the only reason I'm interested in learning how to play golf is because a lot of the only people I know play golf. I was supposed to learn when I was younger, but I was really bad at it and really impatient. But I'll see. I'll see. Golf is expensive though, like real expensive. I want to pick up new hobbies, man, but everything costs so much money. like legit, everything costs so much money, man. Like I want to get into bowling. Bowling's expensive. I want to get into golf. Golf is expensive. The only thing that was easy for me to learn consistently was ice skating. And that was because I just like paid for a set of lessons, and then I was able to figure that out. And now I just have it as a repertoire. But like I don't ice skate consistently. And obviously, you know, time is changing. So I need to find a hobby, another hobby. I mean, I've got like, as I've talked about many times before, a hobby I've recently got into is Magic. But even this is expensive too, to actually build a proper deck, which I'm finally dedicating to do instead of just using precons. But regardless, when you see that Usami decides to lay out the themes just real quick, just in case you really didn't get it, as it goes, when it comes to countries or ethnic groups, the individual is often overlooked. But people don't exist for the sake of a country. Countries exist for the sake of their people. Somehow we end up forgetting something so obvious. And that is true. And not even, and like notably, in many ways, it's not even forgetting. You are forced to live for your country. In many cases, where you aren't allowed to be an autonomous individual. Many countries explicitly, many countries explicitly go out of their way to suppress, to erase, to marginalize, separate, tear down, and isolate the individual so they are nothing, so they can simply serve the country. But obviously, I think what should be is what Usami mentions. Countries exist for the sake of their people. And I also think it's important to always fight to maintain who and what you are. I'm not saying be stubborn to the point of inability to change or to accept new information. But yeah, have a strong sense of self. Be the tree in the forest. Don't just become part of... That analogy doesn't work. It's like, don't miss the forest for the trees. But literally, be a tree. A unique tree. If every other tree standing straight, be a little bit crooked. Doesn't matter. Have fun. You only be a tree for so long. You only live for so long. You only exist for so long. So, live how you want to. Be who you want to. And have fun doing it. As long as you know, this is all you got. But, with it being the case, we see everyone begin to play catch. There's so many challenges piling up. That's exactly why, moments like these are important. Where we can come to face and confront things together. And we see it go from Cross to Yuka to Tsurugi to Mara. Hey, our curse techniques, chaos and harmony, I think they're actually more like a wish. Almost like they're mod tools. A bright future and happiness for everyone. We all wish for that and chase it. And we might hurt others along the way. Still, I hope that we can continue to wish for our own happiness and for the happiness of as many others as possible too. Even if just a little bit. Teach us more about Earth and all of you. Sure. Look at that big old smile, bro. This is why I let fall, man. Look at my phone. But sure. Same for you. Got it. Very, very nice. The idea of throwing the ball, not to strike somebody out, not to hit somebody, but simply to connect, to catch, to link, to understand, to interbelieve, to want to know more of others is to truly acknowledge humanity, right? Ultimately, we humans are social creatures, and while we are very, very different, we're all still the same. You cut me, you cut somebody else, we will bleed red blood. We breathe the same air. We eat the same food. We are the same. And I think as beautiful as our differences are, and as important as our differences are for defining us as individuals, right? I just talked about the idea of being your own tree, as it were, so you don't simply get lost in the forest. I think you should still be willing to meet those people, those other trees that are slightly different than you. Talk to them. Understand them. Connect with them. Be with them. Because they're you. And you're them. We all are each other. And not in a literal way, obviously, but no matter what, you won't encounter another sentient, highly intelligent species capable of communicating with you. At least not anytime soon. Heck, even if we did, still doesn't mean you should abandon your fellow man, or woman, or person. The beauty of us all living in this world together is that we are in it together. So appreciate that. Live in that. And learn all you can, right? Because it is learning, developing, and growing. That's what truly makes us alive. At least, in my opinion. Do with it what you will. However, speaking of doing with it what you will, we see in a building, a certain someone is speaking to Yuka. I'm so glad you're okay now, Yuka. And we see Yuka go, yeah, but in exchange, Dabura had to leave. And we see, what is this woman's name before I actually get this? What is this woman's name? Hold on. Chef Jujutsu Modulo. What is this woman's name? Spin off the chef. What is her name? What is her name? What is her name? What is her name? Yeah, it's a sister. What is the name? What is the name? I need a name. I know she has a name. Please. Dura Val Bobidi Mechika versus Dabura Kanama. Where is the name, bro? Where is the name? Do I have to go to synopsis, brother? Where is the name? Oh no. Here we go, synopsis. Skute Warriors, yada yada. Years later, yada yada. Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo, Yuka Kotsu, Tokyo. Wait, no. Here. Some rebellions, Sukita level threat, Dabura, Black Rope, possible free, satisfy the instant left the room, Yuta Kotsu, Kyoko Tomoe. There we go. Sweet mother mercy, man. Kyoko Tomoe. There it is. But we see Kyoko admit that she's happy, and obviously she says, sure, but your health, compared to your health, my love life doesn't matter. Which is crazy. That implies that even while the humans in Siberians were beefing, Dabura may have been getting in there. If she's talking about her love life. What love life? You met that man once on panel. But and she says, my love life doesn't matter. I just better stop thinking about it. And Yuka goes, I guess it does matter. And we see, suddenly, the door open. Clack. We see Yuka look shocked. Her jaw drop. She puts the drink down. And Tomoe turns around. And it's the end. Now, obviously, my glorious, handsome, legendary Jujutsu King Dabura, literally, like I know. The probable implication here, especially with the whole idea that Chaos and Harmony is like a wish system, where like you just wish upon a star hard enough and something will happen. Maybe the implication here is that Dabura managed to just make his way back through that, right? Like somehow it was like Shenron and Purunga where they reach out to teleport to somebody. Chaos and Harmony itself, the mod tool was like, hey, big Dob, bigger, big. I say bigger. I mean, I guess it is literally bigger, but it just sounds like I'm saying bigger. But Big Burr, Big Raw got hit up by Chaos and Harmony being like, hey, yo, gang, you gonna hit back the class of Earthlings? And Dabura was like, absolutely, they got teleported there. But I cannot get the image out of my head of Dabura sitting around on Samoria being like, man, yo, I really don't feel like being here, bro. That human had me feeling a certain type of way. How many millions of light years away was it? Doug, how many millions of light years away? Dabura just diving through space and traveling several 100 million light years. Like, obviously, that literally, for Mr. I can only travel about sublight speed, it wouldn't really make sense for him to make it back in any reasonable period of time. It would take him, if he can only move at sublight speed, it would take him actual, genuine eons before he made it back to Earth, if he truly was several 100 millions of light years away. But regardless, that is my headcanon. I know it's probably just a Chaos and Harmony thing that he somehow got back here. But no, I like to 100% believe that Dabura just flew. Like Gege not really knowing the difference between lightning speed and Mach 3, Dabura just spontaneously gained the ability to move literally millions of times the speed of light to just straight, on one breath, fly all the way back here. Pulling Omni-Man feet on steroids to come back because he needed some Kyoko Tomoe in his life, and that is the end. So, how do I feel about it? Obviously, I've been here yapping for an hour and 25. Golly! Well, I think it deserved it for the last chapter, but you know how I feel. I am satisfied. I'm satisfied. Obviously, I am still going to talk a bit more about Modulo, its individual aspects. This was more so just an overview of the chapter. I didn't really talk about my overall thoughts on the narrative. If I had to say that, though, real quick, if you asked me, hey, what rating are you giving Modulo out of 10? What are you giving the final chapter out of 10? And then what are you giving the overall series out of 10? I'd probably give the final chapter a solid... Let me squat. Tomorrow's literally leg day. I really shouldn't be doing this. But, let me squat and think. I'd probably give this chapter in particular... probably about like a 7. Probably about a 7. I think I'd probably give the series as a whole a 7 too. Unfortunately, as much as I've been defending like the faster pace of the narrative, just because it is a short run series, that was an active choice made by Gege. Like there's no like, who knows? It may end up being a Nomura and a Nomura versus Disney Kingdom Hearts thing again, where like I'm shocked horror somehow Nomura just has way more creative control over Kingdom Hearts despite actually not even owning the series. Disney actually owns it, but Nomura just has way more influence and control over what happens with the series than I actually initially thought. So it may be the same case where maybe Gege was the one to just make the executive. But let me make it clear what my point is. If Modulo was actually fleshed out more, it'd have a higher score for me, right? Like personally, I give JJK the main series on a good day probably like an 8. It has issues. There's a lot of big issues too, but its highs for me and how much I like its character writing does like save it from a lower. And Modulo of getting a 7 is still good, but it is missing due to its lack of girth. It is still very impressive how much I love characters like Dabuda and Yuka and Cross, especially considering how little screen time they actually got. But still, I can't really say it executed all of its ideas to the perfect amount. Same thing with this chapter. It is like, it's a lot of yapping. And you know me, I love a lot of yapping, but it does feel like a lot of yapping that could have been spaced out better. I wish we could have gotten more of their mother and actually a name for the character. I wish these guys got it. Like there's so much more that definitely could have been done with this series if it was longer. And I highly doubt in my heart of hearts that Viz itself came to Gege and was like, you can only have 25 chapters. I think it was Gege who was like, I just don't want to do more than 3, which is fine. But obviously it sort of doesn't, not backfire, but it doesn't fill me as much as it could. The fact that I'd pretty confidently say, and as in comparison to original JJK, I'd pretty confidently say that Mara is like my either least favorite or second least favorite of the main cast. Goes to tell you how like I have on the series overall. And like notably, I like Yuji. Yuji's my favorite character from original JJK for his narrative and his story. But Maru's story, while it is good, it doesn't really hit me as hard. So generally, I am much more happy. Well, not much more happy. I'm happy with the end of Modulo. But I do agree, like many others, it could have been so much more if given more time, if paced a bit better, even within a 25 run. All that is the case. But, of course, those are my thoughts. Please let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, please do me a favor and leave light speed cheeks. You know you're gonna be like, really? This is the final thing you're like, yes, leave light speed cheeks in the comment section down below. I want to thank you so much for watching. Because remember to leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe. Make sure you hit that little notification so you don't miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, you're going to have a Patreon below where you can support me for as low as $1 a month. Things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. You'll also become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Those perks include the live reactions, so the series I have to review. I have variations on my videos, early ad free access to all my videos. Exclusive videos, one thing I will admit, especially with Modulo ending and be completely free, I don't even know what happened. I only read the chapter on command and completely forgot to do a live reaction for the chapter, so that's on me. But I think in order for Patreon members to actually get like more out of being Patreon members rather than just early access to videos, I'm probably going to start doing certain series exclusively for Patreon members. It won't be as long as the main reviews, but still I'm probably going to start covering like things like Gacha Akuta, Dan to Dan, and whatever else I read weekly. There are a couple other series, Shinobi, literally probably just the rest of the Shonen Jump catalog over there, but it'll probably be quicker reviews. But that's probably going to be an exclusive thing for Patreon members, so you'll get that. Obviously, you'll get your name at the end of every single video as well, your name listed and read aloud if you're a $3 member or $3 Patreon or more. And also, I do my Twitch down below, that got the controller. I stream every Friday, 8 p.m. ES Tizzle. Roll through, we have a great time. It's really, really fun. I love the yap, I love the game. Though it is a lot more yapping than it is gaming, I think about it. I may have to lock in for the next stream, but what I think of, there's one more thing. Brain? Oh yeah, I do have my Ko-Fi now. Oh wait, second channel, that got the reaction, all the videos, early access. Patreon members get that too, and it's linked in the upper, there we go, upper right hand corner. And I do have my Ko-Fi down below. 5 minutes for a short video, 20 minutes long video. Any means at all, any support is always greatly appreciated. Now I want to thank you so much for watching, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is Dago the Pencil, writing off. Alright, lady, give a thank you to our sketch tier members: Eternal Flame, Red Wolf 4765, Astro, Glacier XZ, Zera, J2MA, Buddha Ura, Yuki Ally, Grim, Ollie, The Boy, Corey Watson, Damon Brown, Tim Thomas, Kaving, ORXN, Logan Guzman, Dead Meme, Keon Stewart, Donovan McIntosh, BNA DNA, Edwin Igbinoba, Straw, and Tavius Mitchell. Superflame Zero, Weary Exile, Alex Kenny, Todd, The Practical One, Landon Clapwick, Heath Nelson, CAET, Jagoda, Plant Crone, Striker Man, Brandon Payne, Black Sage, Multi-Batman Superman, Salims, Joe Bean, Sleepin' John, The Young Family Pastel Pandora, Mo City King DKG, Andreen Bonnet, Akulari Babatunde, at JDog2656, Union Eye, Marisol Boyd, Funny Dude, Athenzi Shear, Magic, Sino King, Sheesh King, Aswin Hedi Presetia, JMB KD, CCC, Enzo, Kitty Liddy, Gerald Harris, and Dino. Then, a big thank you to our line art tier patrons: A+A, Dured Zoen, Kevin Encarnacion, Lil Kodo, Midnight Lord 21, and Sean. Then, lady, thank you to our ink tier members: Shrimpo the 4th Shrimp 06. Then, lady, thank you to our digital art tier members: J Warrior and AZ Void. And lady, a final thank you to our colored art tier patrons: Walking Minoz, and Ernesto 430.